Okay, so here we are, 5 or 6 minutes later, and my work on the applying the wash on the other 5 bases is complete. So now we're going to go ahead and finish this guy's base. So I'm going to take, now a lot of the videos online or steps online will tell you to do this, put the material on there, let it dry, wash, let it dry, and then use a couple of different grays to build up the color. They'll say, use, Mechanicus standard battle gray. That's okay, but because the blue gray of the model and the color of the base, I want the base to be a stark contrast, even though it's dark, to the model. So I'm going to go straight from the Astro Granite and the wash directly to Ulthuan Gray. And a little bit on my palette, I'm going to get it worked into my dry brush, and hopefully this thing won't brush red because the reds have an extremely heavy pigment. Got a little bit on my brush. I'm going to move this guy out of the way here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get most of the paint off the brush. I don't want it to be too heavy. What you're going to do is run it right over the Astro Granite texture, so that way it pops out. And then repeat on the other models in your block. This is the fastest part of painting a model. I actually have a lot of models that are done in old school styles basing. Glue on the sand with white glue, let it dry overnight, and then once it's done you paint over it, and then once it's painted over you wash it with a wash or with an ink, and you let that dry, and then once that's dry you can dry brush it again. I am not going to go and rebase. I currently count 15,000 points of Power Armored Space Marines just to switch over to the new basing materials. So I'm just going to keep basing in the same way, but I'm going to keep working until I figure out the best way to mimic the old style of painting with some of the new materials. Sterling Mud has gotten pretty close, but it doesn't have enough of the big chunks of material in it to give it this kind of a feeling, or the rocky kind of ground, churned up rock and rubble that happens on a non-city fight battlefield, at least for what looks good on a model. Alright, and this guy is now done as well. So now that that's done, I'll grab my medium layer brush and Eschen Gray. Eschen Gray is the color I've been using for the trim rings around the bases. And because I'm painting over the primed base, this covers pretty well but because I use thinned paints and dropper bottles that have been thinned with airbrush flow improver, the paint is a lot thinner coming right out of the squeeze bottles. It doesn't have to be thinned. It tends to go a lot further too. There are plenty of online tutorials telling you how to switch how to switch everything over. But if you're like me and paint a lot, it's almost a requirement to do it, especially if you use an airbrush. Because Games Workshop makes Games Workshop Air, and Vallejo makes their air paint, and Vallejo Game Color Air. You still have to thin it, and the Vallejo Game is close, but it doesn't exactly match Games Workshop colors. So, because I'm a GW fanboy, I use GW paints because I like them, and they have a lot of color variation, and their colors, and they're heavy in pigment, and they're really easy to thin. Get them into those dropper bottles, and you're pretty much ready to airbrush as soon as you get them thin enough to get everything out of the pot. I do thin just a little bit more from time to time because some of them, especially the reds, are so heavy with pigment that it sticks to everything. My brushes, the airbrush, it takes forever to get them clean. Finish this. Let them dry, and then apply static grass. Now, in my rush to mess around and make more videos, I forgot that on the other squad of these guys that I did, there are but I have to add more decals to the existing model. Alright. Static grass. This is a mix of static grass. That is a mix of Woodland Scenics, spring grass, and the GW grass from the Table Basic kit. Standard Elmer's glue, little blob on the front, little blob on the back, and then I take and shove it in the static grass. Now, I have a big tub like this because when I base, especially applying static grass, I want to leave it in there and let the glue start to set up and dry prior to taking them out. Do not make the mistake that I've made a billion times and try to blow on the base when you got the bucket of static grass open in front of you, because it will go everywhere, and this stuff sticks to everything. So, get some on there, push them back this way. Another reason why I leave them in there too is because I'm putting a pretty good sized blob of glue on the base, and I want to make sure that plenty of grass gets settled in there, because if you spread the glue out too thin, it dries and it grabs some of the material, but it doesn't hang on to a whole lot of it, and you wind up with a flat area. And then so you put a little mound on there, because when grass grows, it kind of pokes up out of everything. And this will spread when you smush it down in the static grass. So, right, and then we let them sit. I don't thin the white glue. I want it to be nice and thick, and it's going to take a while to dry. I let it sit at least a day before I spray it with matte varnish. So, alright, so the other guy's been in there long enough. I just tap it to break loose any extra. Because the bases were still kind of tacky, it's going to have a lot on there, but I'm going to use my airbrush with no moisture in it and air to blow all the extra off later on. anything that's not supposed to be there. Try to knock off the majority of the extra stuff with your finger. Get most of it off. Pull that back. You can see there's nothing on the bottom of the space, and it's just hanging on there. The static grass is exactly that, it's static. There's a trick with static grass a good buddy of mine named Kyle Kingor taught me a long time ago. So, you know, I used to do the bases. It was just flock. I used to do flock and rocks, you know, bam, done. Paint, paint the base green, dip it in some flock. Paint some, spray some matte varnish across the top, and you're good. You know, old school 80s and 90s basing technology. And the first time I did bases like this that had texture and dry brushing and different colored base range other than green, Kyle told me that one of the secrets to doing static grass is to, after you get it on there and you've got most of it loose, blow on it. Basically what it does is it makes this grass stand up. Hold them upside down. Blow on. I'll still go back and hit them with the air compressor with less than 10 pounds of air blowing on them to knock the extra off. And there we have a 5-man combat squad of Sky Claws that are missing only the top backpack decals, which I will do later on. And then just waiting on the wash to dry on the other 5 guys.